Hello, it is Lynx here, and today I'm going to be reading a fic called The Taste of Music on Your Tongue by Strawberries Banana 2 on AO3. This is not a finished fic, it is in fact a work in progress, I believe. Yeah, because it was just updated yesterday, and so far it has 43,744 words. There is one archive warning, graphic depictions of violence, and it is rated a general audience's fic. This is also a Bakudeku fic, so if you don't like it, don't listen. So without further ado, let's get started. Summary. So, what else do you like? Okay, he wasn't expecting that either, but he most definitely wasn't complaining. Izuku mulls over the question once more. What else am I into? I like music? Like a lot. Really? I play in a band. Do you like bands? Oh, you two should come to our next concert. A concert? Izuku Midoriya, a rising model and actor, swears the world is against him when he meets Katsuki Bakugo, one of the most talented drummers and a part of the most popular band in Japan, Paramore. But Katsuki immediately decides that Izuku is nothing more than a spoiled pretty boy with a famous face. But as their worlds collide, one thing becomes blatantly obvious. There's more to that green-haired boy than he ever could have expected. A story about love, learning to be loved, and never wanting to let go. Notes. Hello there, lovely people. I'm very excited considering this is the first fanfic I've ever written, so don't judge me too harshly. I am a Bakudeku girly till the day that I die, so this fic feels very in character for me. Please let me know if I make any mistakes and, enjoy. I'm not quite sure how many chapters this will turn out to have, but my plan says around 30, but I might change some things around. We'll see. Feel free to leave comments and feedback. I honestly need it. Couple of warnings before we start. The main band in this fic is called Paramore. This is a very real band, and you probs have heard of it, with Hayley Williams. Anyways, I don't own any of the songs in this fic or anything. I wish I was more creative, but I'm not. Plus, I think her music really suits Bakudeku, And yes, I'm sorry there's out-of-character Yoshindo. Please don't cover for me, lol. JK, but I'm not really a fan of OCs. I don't know, just not my thing, so yeah, he'll be a bit different in this fic, but I hope you enjoy it all the same. I also don't own any characters in this fic. I only own the plot. Just as a reader's note, I am going to say that those were the author's notes of the person that originally wrote this fic. Here we are with Chapter 1. Chapter 1. Tell me it's okay. My fellow by disaster. 11:31 a.m. Ochako. Hey, remember we have a lunch with my friends soon. Ochako, don't forget, although I know you probs already did. Izuku Midoriya was not a morning person. He didn't see how anyone could be, considering sleep was just about the most amazing thing one could experience. It was the one thing that made him feel at peace, the only time he could shut everything out and just relax. But alas, there were things to do, people to meet, photo shoots to attend to, and lunch with Ochako's friend, which Izuku couldn't forget. Spoiler alert, he did, no matter how badly he wanted to sleep in. Speaking of sleeping in, Izuku groaned. A small beam of light that had snuck through a hole in his crimson window curtains had decided to point its aim directly at his poor, unprotected, sleepy eyes, which made getting up about 5 times harder. His hand immediately shot up to cover himself as he rolled over, giving him a lovely view of his phone, sitting perfectly upright on charge, taunting him with the words that lit up his darkened room. His alarm had been going off for an hour and a half. Why the hell is my stupid fucking phone on silent? His alarm was his mortal enemy, clearly. Izuku practically tripped over his own pasty white sheets in his hurry to get out of bed, his pillow tumbling to the floor in the process. He turned off his constantly buzzing phone as he went, rolling his eyes at the stupid messages that displayed on the screen. God, it's like these scouts and agents don't sleep. Like that one agent that blew up his phone during his old dog's mini-funeral, complete with a eulogy and 3 wilted daisies. Trying to pitch a campaign about grief skincare. What the hell does that even mean? Izuku ripped open his cupboard door with a huff and began ruffling through the only couple of wearable fabrics he owned. He ended up just grabbing the first thing he could find, baggy jeans and a plain black shirt. After making sure they were at least halfway decent, he practically threw them on, glancing quickly at his phone to see how much time he had left. If lunch is at 12 and it's 11:39 now, and not to mention it's a 15-minute walk there, so I have around 5 to 6 minutes if I hurry. Damn it, that's not enough! Izuku groaned, jogging quickly around his dining room table to head into the pale wooden door on the other side. Upon stumbling into the bathroom, he assessed the mess which was his dark green curls in the mirror, debating whether or not to try today. After all, the only people who ever managed to tame his wild green curls were his mother and some very talented makeup artists. He did not have enough time to care. He rinsed his hands with water, roughly raking his damp fingers through his messy hair until he was somewhat content with the results. Izuku contemplated quickly whether or not he would have enough time for a rush shower, but the hot water was so slow that he would end up wasting all his precious time fiddling with the temperature instead of actually showering, and eventually landed on the conclusion that it indeed was not worth the risk. Breakfast was always a hassle, considering Izuku was the #1 world's worst chef. That could probably burn 2-minute noodles. Plus, he is literally about to go out to eat. He didn't need to worry about that right now. Thank whatever divine God that was watching over him for letting him avoid the disaster that was him in the kitchen for a moment longer. How he landed a job as a model with his diet, he genuinely had no clue. As Izuku fumbled with the laces of his bright red, well, more of a muted red now, considering he's worn them every day for 2 years straight, shoes, his phone showed he had missed 3 more messages from Ochako, but Izuku pays them no mind. He spares one last somber look at the clock hanging above his dining room table before reaching for his keys and locking his door behind him. It was going to be a long day. It didn't help that it was windy. Izuku was normally a very upbeat and optimistic person. You know, always seeing the bright side of things. Blah, blah, blah. That was something he took pride in, just not the mornings, and especially not the very cold mornings. Loud music blasted in his earbuds as he trudged down the street, arms crossed over his chest and jaw shut tight. The second the bittersweet intro of Tell Me It's Okay by Paramore flooded into his ears, the walk had become slightly more bearable. The breeze was cool against his skin, and suddenly Izuku wondered why the hell he didn't bring a jacket. The sun stretched across his freckles, making them glow as he fast walked towards a small cafe that resided on the corner of the street. The sounds of Mustafa filled his ears as he went. He took in the tall buildings and the dully colored cars that passed by with little to no interest. He zoned out a bit as he walked, humming along to the beat in his earphones as the busy streets became white noise all around him. His head continued buzzing with his own thoughts. The city was beautiful, yes, but it had been beautiful his entire life. He had gotten used to the sight that is his home, or maybe he just had other things on his mind. But something had to give. I had to finally see the light. I think at 23, it's time to practice what I preach, and what I preach is... Izuku remembered the last person Ochako introduced him to, and suddenly his stomach twisted painfully and he felt like he was going to vomit. Nope, we are not thinking about him right now. Take a deep breath, remember? In and out. He shakes his head quickly, steadying his breathing. Izuku paused in his steps for just a millisecond to recoup. Then he kept moving. He could not afford to be late, otherwise Ochako was gonna bite his head clean off. He probably was right old mess when he reached the little cafe tucked away in a small corner of the city. But he really wasn't one to care about his appearance. Ironic, right? Izuku pushed the door open. The little bell above the door chimed as he stepped into the warmth of the cafe. He stumbled inside just as the last few notes of his song faded to a stop, trying and failing to seem put together as he approached the counter where a girl, seemingly in high school, sat, watching him with tired eyes. In the corner of his eye, he spotted someone waving at him. The smell of coffee hit him immediately, but it wasn't the kind of comfort he was craving. As he turned fully, he recognized the bubbly girl that is Ochako Uraraka sitting in a small booth by the window. But she was not alone. Well, Izuku knew she wouldn't be, but still, he was kind of hoping he wouldn't be the last one to arrive. Oh, wistful thinking, I suppose. In the booth across from Ochako sat a girl with impressive sun-kissed skin. She looked as though she just came back from vacation to a beach. She had vibrant pink hair that looked a little washed out but still bold. It clashed horribly with the yellow in her eyes, but somehow she made it work. Izuku made his way over, steps echoing in his mind, silently hoping that she was as nice as she looked. He didn't think he could deal with another Yoshindo incident after everything. The seats in the cafe were arranged in rows, each table decorated with some drink add-ins such as sugar, and a colorful flower in a clear glass vase, sitting right in the middle of the dark wooden tables. The cafe was quite small, but it had a lot of windows, so nowhere near claustrophobic. All the tables and chairs were the same dark wood color, except for the booths. The booth seats were this dark red that reminded Izuku of a movie theater or Poppies. The walls were decorated with interesting art pieces that made no sense at first glance, but grew more and more beautiful with each look. Izuku slid into the seat next to Ochako, hands shaking. She gave him a friendly smile that almost melted away some of his nerves. Before he could open his mouth to introduce himself, the girl across from them beat him to the punch. She put her hands on the table, a gleam in her cat-like eyes that made Izuku swallow. He subconsciously leaned backwards. "Mina Ashido, it's such a pleasure to meet you. Uraraka has told me so much about you." Okay, that was a lot. Izuku noticed a lot of things at once, but a few things stuck out like a sore thumb. Her voice was soft, kind of like a teenage girl's might be, but she speaks so fast it made Izuku dizzy. Not to mention the name Mina Ashido is really familiar, but Izuku just can't quite understand why. He is almost certain he didn't go to high school with her, and honestly thinks he hasn't seen her in his entire life, so what could it be? Maybe he's just being stupid. Mina is a really common name after all. But what really caught his attention was something a little odd. She was grinning from ear to ear, holding out her hand for him to shake. Izuku felt his tense shoulders ease as he formed his lips in a small, polite smile. She's a bit too enthusiastic to meet him, but he can tell she's nervous, practically shaking with self-doubt. He notices her trembling slightly and wonders if she is just as nervous as he is. He almost frowns. She's so confident, yet her eyes are failing to meet his. He can tell she's not as self-assured as she seems. He's sure they will get along just fine. He shakes her hand back. Maybe she isn't all bad. "Izuku Midoriya, nice to meet you as well." As he let go of her hand, his mind started to race with thoughts like, was that too formal? Was it rude considering she was extremely nice to me the second I opened my mouth? Should I loosen up a bit? Probably. Oh God, what if she thinks I hate her? And if Mina had a problem with the way he introduced himself, she clearly didn't show it. She gave him a quick nod before turning back to her original conversation. She took a large gulp of an iced latte that was sitting by her right elbow. The cup hit the table with a small thump before she spoke again, equally as loud and cheery as the first time she opened her mouth. Okay, so energy is an ongoing thing. #jealous, #couldn't be me. Anyway, Ochako, you were telling me about that new piece you were working on. Right. Ochako had told them about an important fashion show in New York she was attending in a month or two. She was supposed to be designing dresses for some famous female models that were taking part in the performance. It was one of the biggest events of her fashion designing career yet, and Izuku had spent many nights listening to Ochako ramble on about how good of an opportunity this is and how excited and nervous she was. That now he's probably almost as nervous for this thing as she was. She was leaving for 2 whole months in a couple of weeks. Izuku was extremely happy and proud of his friend, but he'll definitely miss her. Grateful that the attention was off of him for now, he sat back and sipped some mediocre coffee Ochako had ordered for him while listening to those two girls ramble on about anything fashion-related and some random tune that came up through the cafe's speakers. She was nice, a little too nice, and a whole lot energetic. Like, wow, it's a little impressive to see the way she's so animated about everything. It's like she never runs out of battery. He can see why she and Ochako are good friends. Maybe they will be too. After about 5 minutes, Izuku had already zoned out. They weren't talking about anything he hadn't heard before, and frankly, he needed a minute. The sounds of cups clinking, distant chatter, and coffee being ground became much more noticeable once he stopped paying attention to his friends. A caramel-like scent wafted through the air, hitting his nostrils hard, nearly making Izuku gag. A waiter came by their table. Izuku ordered a plain green tea and a breakfast sandwich. This place makes amazing sandwiches. He would know. Him and Ochako go out for lunch every week, and he gets the same thing every time. Once the waiter walked away, having written down their orders, Mina looked over at him, and Izuku took a deep breath. "So, Midoriya, what are some things you like to do?" Mina asks curiously, leaning in a bit across the table. Izuku hums softly to show he's thinking about his answer. He was expecting an icebreaker like this, just didn't think of a reply beforehand. What's something that's not too interesting but also not too boring? Something that makes me seem interesting and not a total couch potato. Oh, well... Izuku racks his brain for answers, but he can't find anything worthwhile. Maybe something to do with his job? Nah, modeling is a career, not a hobby. Maybe something like that, though? Photography is interesting. I'm into photography, I guess. Mina gasps and grins as though he just told her he was a famous actor. Well, only sometimes. Do you take the photos or are you in them? Izuku freezes a little. Now that was something he wasn't expecting. Does she know something? Is she playing with him? Who even asks that? Before he could answer, however, Ochako grins like she's been waiting for this to come up the entire time. Izuku can't help but feel dread pull at his chest. Anytime Ochako has that look in her eyes, you know it's bad. He's a model. Isn't it cool? Why don't you look him up? Izuku cringes. It sounds cool, and he's in a couple of movies and advertisements as well, but the way Mina lights up at her phone makes him feel as though he's supposed to be special, supposed to feel different. Maybe that's why he became a model, to feel special and not be the plain 22-year-old man that his mother assumed he would grow to be. That when people see him, they won't immediately think of a disappointing or boring kid anymore. He enjoys it, truly, but he also knows there's more to his career than that. You're famous? That's so cool. I knew you looked a little familiar. She laughs, and Ochako grins back. She nudges Izuku slightly under the table, and he tilts his lips upwards slightly, a reflex more than anything. Geez, was that light above him always flickering like that? His stomach squirmed uncomfortably as he prepared himself for an onslaught of questions to get thrown his way, but Ashido seemed to only have one on her mind. So, what else do you like? Okay, he wasn't expecting that either, but he most definitely wasn't complaining. Izuku mulls over the question once more. What else am I into? I like music, like a lot. He tries with a small laugh. A lot is a bit of an understatement, but whatever. Maybe that'll be enough to get the attention off him. Except that kind of has the complete opposite effect. It was like music was her trigger word, and somehow she became even more excited than before. Really? I play in a band. Do you like bands? Oh my god, you two should so come to our next concert. Izuku's eyes light up at the idea. A concert? I've never been to one before. His heart pounds. The idea is exciting and nerve-wracking all at the same time. Concerts are loud and noisy. He likes noisy. Silence lets him sit with his fast-paced thoughts, and that's never a good idea. But then again, the suffocating feeling of crowds always accompany loud places. But being the idiot he is, before he has time to properly think about it, he's already agreeing. Busy week or not, he's in. Wow, really? Izuku grinned. He couldn't help but feel giddy at the idea. He just got invited to a concert, and the girl in front of him actually plays in the band. What instrument does she play? I wonder what their band name is. They must be pretty popular if they have a whole concert just for their band. Are you sure it would be okay for us to come? Mina grins with excitement, and Izuku could practically feel all the sensible thoughts drain out of his head. Yeah, he's pretty sure she has that effect on most people. Absolutely! Ochako goes to them all the time. I'm sure we could snag you 2 extra seats. Izuku looked over at Ochako next to him. The complaints about her not telling him were on the tip of his tongue, but something made his smile sour. She wasn't looking at him, or Mina for that matter. Instead, she was staring at a particular spot on the table. Her gaze had this faraway look. The corners of her mouth were tilted downward, and her thumb was picking at her other nails. She almost seemed unsure. Why? Did she not think he could handle himself or something? Now that would hurt. Otaku's eyes fitted in his direction. They made eye contact for a split second before he moved to face Mina. There was something of an emotion behind her irises that made Izuku worry, yet he couldn't quite pin down what it was. It was gone before he even had the chance to. We'd love to, Mina. Thank you. She beamed, and Izuku was almost convinced. He could see her smile wavering just a bit at the edges, but enough to be suspicious. But hey, he's going to his first ever concert with Ochako. He's not going to pass this up, but maybe he'll ask about it later just to be sure nothing is wrong. What kind of instrument do you play, Ashido? Izuku asked curiously, saying each word as though they could break, careful not to spew the millions of questions he had been storing up since she mentioned she was in a band. Mina seemed to deflate a bit at the question. She didn't look uncomfortable, just disappointed, downhearted, downcast even. Oh, I just play bass guitar. Nothing fancy like drums or singing, but I do really enjoy it. Oh, that's the way she said it, almost as if she was disappointed that the bass guitar wasn't as cool or something. Well, that's not fair. Not fair at all. Bass guitar is extremely cool, and she should know that too. Izuku grins almost impossibly wide. Really? You play bass? That's so cool. I've always liked the lower pitch the bass guitar has over a plain, regular guitar. It just adds so much depth to a song without most people realizing it. The way it looks, too, is really interesting because Mina's soft laughter cuts him off and Izuku flushes a deep shade of pink. Wow, that is embarrassing. Well done, Izuku. Even Ochako is smiling, not laughing like usual, just smiling where her eyes lacked the usual spark. That was new, and weirdly worse. He'll have to ask her about it later. Thanks, Midoriya. You seem to like music just as much as me. Mina chuckles again, taking another sip of her iced latte, if not more. She adds with a soft smile, almost wistful. A new waiter approaches their table, carrying their food. Ochako smiles kindly and thanks them before they walk off once more. Izuku glances down at his food. Yep, it looks as good as it normally does. He lifts his gaze to meet Mina's. She was already taking a bite of some avocado toast she had ordered. Izuku takes a mental note to order that next time. So, Ashida, what's your band like? Izuku asks, generally curious. Mina swallows the piece of toast that was already in her mouth before answering. She had that look in her eye again. Oh, it's great! Everyone in it are really close friends of mine, so we all get along rather well. I mean, Kaminari and Kirishima are like my main friends, along with Jiro, but we are all kind of one big friend group, you know? Wait, Kaminari, Kirishima, Jiro? Izuku knows these people, but how? He has no clue, just like when Mina first introduced herself. Something about those names are just stick. This can't be a coincidence. To mention Bakugo, Jiro and Kiri are always around each other, so we kind of just work, you know? And Sero comes up with all the songs for our band, so we'd really be nowhere without him. And Sero? Bakugo? That sounds a lot like... Oh. Wait, no, there's no actual way he met the Mina Ashido, right? I mean, what other Mina Ashidos were there? It was an extremely slim chance that he met the bassist of one of the most well-known and talented bands out there, but he did know that Mina played the bass guitar and had friends whose names sound suspiciously like members of the most admired band in the entire country. Coincidence, right? Well, there was only really one way to find out. That's really, really cool. Izuku beamed at her. He could feel Ochako suddenly grow even more fidgety, like she knew what he was going to ask and what answer he was going to get. So, what was the name of your band again? Izuku tried to make his voice sound light and casual, but there was no need. He knew the answer before she even had time to open her mouth, because in that moment, everything clicked. Jiro, Kyokujiro, the lead singer. How could he have been so dense? It was right in front of him the entire time. Is that why Ochako introduced him? Speaking of Ochako, she knew the bassist of Japan's favorable bands, and she kept it to herself this entire time. She didn't even tell him, for crying out loud. Mina's smile softened to something Izuku could only assume was fondness before she spoke and confirmed Izuku's biggest nightmares and wildest daydreams. Paramore. My band's name is Paramore. Alright, that was the end of the fic. That was the end of chapter 1. I really enjoyed recording this. It was so much fun. And the Rat Satan is listening in right now. Rat Satan definitely says to subscribe. No, this is not the end of this fic. So, remember to leave a kudos on the fic. Remember to eat, sleep, drink your water, and take your meds. And when you sleep, go to bed at a reasonable time. You can't call me out for not going to bed at a reasonable time because it is daylight right now. So remember, kids, be do and crime gay.